Hello, and welcome to another Warrior Creed live stream with me, the radical Majid Nawaz. And today we are discussing Trump's intervention on the eve of a deal with Iran, negotiated via Pakistan. And that is the image you just saw on the screen. Of course, an image there referring to Trump's Truth Social post where he signed off, praise be to Allah, after an Easter Sunday expletive-laden threat to Iran that he would blow up their power plants and their bridges if they didn't come to a settlement within the deadline that Trump has set for them, and that is this evening, 8 p.m. Tuesday, which is today. And of course, Pakistan has been negotiating up until this point for this settlement. We're going to be breaking down for you exactly what Trump is playing at with this expletive-laden intervention on Easter Sunday, signing off with praise be to Allah while threatening Iran. Break it down for you in military terms, in terms of military theory, and reassure you that all is on track, as counterintuitive as that sounds. So stay with us. This is Majid Nawaz for the Warrior Queen. We'll be coming right back to you after the introductory titles.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength of street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge. Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.
Damn, that shit was dope.
And welcome back to the Warrior Creed live stream with me, the radical Majid Nawaz. And you should be tuned in right now to the live Warrior Creed live stream that goes out every Tuesday. We thank all of our premium subscribers and remind you, those of you who have not yet subscribed to the podcast and the written version of this stream with all the receipts included, hop over to majidnawaz.substack.com, sign up to Radical Media. Premium subscribers will get not only the podcast version of this stream, but also the full Radical Dispatch with all the receipts linked up and other paywalled content. Now, today, as we said, we're going to share the title of today's stream on the screens for you. It is an incredible one, and that is because President Trump has made an unprecedented intervention on Easter Sunday and has told the Iranian theocracy that they has effectively threatened them that they better open the Hormuz Strait on Easter Sunday. And you can see there on your screens, President Trump says, Trump tells the Iranian theocracy to open the effing Strait. And that's on Easter Sunday, and signs off with praise be to Allah. That is the title for today's stream. It is incredibly, let's say, candid for a president of the United States of America to be speaking in these terms. And yet, nevertheless, there he is, President Trump. You can see it right there on your screens, telling the Iranian theocracy to open the effing Strait on Easter Sunday, and signs off with praise be to Allah. That's the title for today. We're going to show you the Truth Social post, and there we've entitled it The Mad King Trump. We're going to read it for you there. This on your screens right now is the original Truth Social post by President Trump. We will read it for you. It says, Donald J. Trump, Truth Social, posted at 8:03 a.m. Eastern Time. And there you can see it on the 5th of April. That is Easter Sunday, and 2026 at 1:34 p.m. Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day, all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the effing Strait, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. Capital letters, just watch. Praise be to Allah, President Donald Trump. Now, we understand, obviously, that what you see there by President Trump, a lot of people will be offended by what President Trump has just posted from multiple angles, not least because it involves a threat to attack another country. It involves a mocking of the religion of Islam, my own religion, faith tradition. I prefer to say religion it's a loaded word. the deen or the way of Islam. There's a suggestion that there's a mockery of Islam in that post. There's, of course, crude language. There's, in addition, the heresy or blasphemy, whichever way you want to look at it, of an expletive-laden post on Easter Sunday, in the context of many Christians already being upset because King Charles, for whatever reason, didn't post an Easter Sunday message. And the reason we mention that, of course, is because Tucker Carlson's reaction refers specifically, his reaction to this post, which we're about to play you, refers specifically to Christianity. So there's been a lot of offense. Tucker Carlson himself has taken offense at this post. Now, we are clearly suppressing a smile because we feel this post has been misunderstood. And as a Muslim, I speak here to suggest that this is perhaps misunderstood at this moment, but also that the threat, of course, that's no laughing matter. The threat against another country, even though that part isn't a laughing matter, innocent lives are at stake. And of course, war is never a good thing. It should always be a last resort. We are clearly not pacifists because the world sometimes requires us to intervene for the sake of the greater good, such as war against, say, I don't know, Hitler. But overall, and usually by default, war is not a good thing and should be the last resort. We should never rush to war. So that part is serious, but we're also going to reassure everybody over the course of this stream that not only has President Trump's reference to praise be to Allah been completely misunderstood, but it also is the threat to Iran comes in the context of well-established military doctrine. This is the madman strategy, which we're going to elaborate upon over the course of this stream for everybody. So in short, we're asking everybody to perhaps not be so concerned or perhaps slightly calm down when it comes to our reaction to this post, though obviously we understand that it can appear quite alarming, and in many cases the reaction by people like Tucker Carlson are clearly understandable. But that is insofar as the post itself, where again, in the context of the joke in which we believe this is a reference to, which we're going to explain, don't worry, this isn't all a laughing matter. As we said, war isn't, but the point of the praise be to Allah, forgive us if as a Muslim I find that part funny. I think I'm entitled to, but we're going to explain why. In the context of that reference, we just want to show you an image of President Trump on your screens right now, dressed up in a manner appropriate for the post that he posted on Twitter on Easter. There you go. There you go. We hope you can see that on your screens. This is President Trump, clearly an AI rendered image with a beard and a Muslim prayer hat. That should be perhaps that's an appropriate mockery of the mockery, if you like, a satire of the satire, in reference to President Trump signing off with the words praise be to Allah. But we're going to explain what's going on. It's not all insanity. We're certainly not, by the looks of it, on the brink of World War III, though, of course, there's always that risk, and it should never be forgotten over the course of these negotiations. Instead, though, take this off the screen so we can be a bit more serious. Instead, though, rather than the being at risk of entering nuclear Armageddon, we are, and we hold to this view and have had this view since day one of this conflict, we are about to enter into an unprecedented grand regional settlement for peace. And this stream is going to explain exactly how and why that is the case. But, there are, as we said, people like Tucker Carlson who are quite upset with Trump's intervention here and have reacted online in regards to this. So we are going to play some of those reactions for you so that you can hear them for yourselves and then give you our reaction or response to those reactions, again in the context of a reassurance that this isn't as bad as it looks. Clearly some people are quite upset with this, and others are hyperventilating. We'll get to those in a moment as well. But even with people like Tucker Carlson, our buddy Tucker, please take this in the best spirit that it is intended, which is a clarification that there isn't, yeah, of course, we should always be concerned, but in fact, this intervention by President Trump comes in light of a context which we urge everybody to keep in mind, right? So we are now going to, first of all, play you the reaction by Tucker Carlson. It's obvious he's upset, but as we do, or before we do, we will remind everybody that despite this, what you're going to hear him say, there is a response to it that we have. So we ask you to watch this. It's going to sound quite appealing perhaps to some of our viewers, but keep in mind that there's a response to it, that we're going to provide context to explain why perhaps our friend Tucker should perhaps be a bit more relaxed about what's going on here, which we will get to. Don't worry, right? So this isn't as bad as it looks. But first of all, here's Tucker Carlson's reaction to President Trump's intervention there.
You're tweeting out the F word on Easter morning? You'll be living in hell. Just watch. Praise be to Allah. So obviously you're mocking the religion of Iran. Okay. If you seek a religious war, that's a good idea. But by the way, no decent person mocks other people's religions. You may have a problem with the theology. Presumably you do if it's not your religion, and you can explain what that is. But to mock other people's faith is to mock the idea of faith itself. And we should never mock that. Because at its core is the acknowledgement that we are not in charge of the universe. We did not build it. We won't be here at the end of it. We can destroy life. We cannot create it because we are not God. The message of all faith at the biggest picture level is the message in our Bible, which is you are not God. And only if you think you are do you talk this way. But it's not just mockery of Islam. And no president should mock Islam. That's not your job. This is not a theocracy. We don't go to war with other theocracies to find out which theocracy is more effective. We are not a theocracy. And God willing, we never will be, because theocracies corrupt the religion. No, this is a mockery not just of Islam, it's a mockery of Christianity. To send out a tweet with the F word on Easter morning promising the murder of civilians and then saying praise be to Allah without explaining any of it, you are mocking me and every other Christian because we're Christians. We can't support that. That is evil. That is an intentional desecration of beauty and truth, which is the definition of evil.
Right. So, we assured everybody there's a context to this, and that context is what we are going to get into now, so that people aren't as offended as clearly our buddy Tucker Carlson is. And the purpose is to demonstrate that President Trump, in signing off praise be to Allah while threatening Iran, was referencing something entirely different. And this is what we're going to now show you. This is what President Trump was referencing, and it's been caught by some online users. Well done. In fact, we're going to show you the post online by one of the people that caught it. There it is, a user called NotGlum831, at NotGlum831, we should say, Trump on Easter. The reference to what Trump is saying on Easter was this, right? So here you can see a video of Mike Tyson on your screens. Now, you may be at this point thinking, what on earth is he on about? President Trump just threatened Iran. Why have you, Majid, brought up a video of former world champion boxer, American former world champion boxer, and probably one of the greatest boxers of all time, both in terms of power, in terms of sheer intimidation, in terms of skill? Mike Tyson, at his peak, is probably one of the greatest of all time. And why have we brought up a video? Well, here is why. Now, when you listen to this, keep in mind what you just heard. We read, President Trump said, and also what Tucker Carlson read. And we're now going to play you this video so that you can understand the context that we believe President Trump was speaking in.
Defensive impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
Are you saying now, Mike?
My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children. Praise be to Allah.
Are you saying now, Mike?
So, That's Mike Tyson saying praise be to Allah in the context of threatening his opponent that he's going to eat their children, that his defense, he's boasting about his defense and his ability. What we believe President Trump was in fact referring to that very world famous clip of Mike Tyson. It's an online clip. It's viral. And by signing off praise be to Allah, we believe that tongue in cheek, President Trump was referencing Mike Tyson there, praise be to Allah, as that's Tyson at his peak, as a champion, using this kind of language to intimidate his opponent before going on to absolutely smash his opponent. And this is clearly a reference to Tyson. Obviously, the expletive-ridden post on Easter Sunday has upset our Christian brethren, Catholic and other Christian brethren. That's something that isn't really, we believe, Trump's intention. Nevertheless, it's understandable why Christians may be upset by Trump choosing Easter Sunday to issue that threat. However, again, we would point to the fact that clearly sometimes war is necessary, and everything in the context of even the values that we hold, which Christianity, part of the civilization, Western civilization as it is, it could be argued that Trump is attempting to defend that by posting in this manner against a regime, an ideological commitment, that is Shia Islamism, that has a theocratic character and that seeks to damage the civilization that President Trump is positioning himself as being a defender of. So, that is the context there. Now, that may sound quite difficult to believe for some people, especially those that suffer from TDS or Trump derangement syndrome. However, we are going to, at this stage, reference you to the National Archives, National Security Archives, we should say, from the United States of America. This, what we believe is what's going on here is this is, as we've said there in our post, you can see it on your screens, in our reaction to President Trump's Truth Social, we've said this is the madman strategy. Now, some may be confused there. We're not actually calling President Trump mad. In fact, the chapter in the Radical Dispatch, within which, the written version of this stream, that is, within which this will all be explained, will be called the Mad King Trump. But we're not literally calling Trump mad. What we are referencing here, both by using the phrase the Mad King and the madman strategy, is a well-established Kissinger-era national security doctrine, as you can see here from the website, the National Security Archive. There's an article there that's headlined Nixon, Kissinger, and the Madman Strategy During the Vietnam War. Now, what is that strategy? Well, we're going to read it for you now, just to clarify exactly what we believe President Trump is doing here. And obviously, when you understand this, you'll understand why that Mike Tyson clip in the context of intimidating the enemy was relevant as well. This is well-established military doctrine from the National Security Archive. Just reading there, posted last year, 29th of May, 2015. President Richard Nixon and his national security advisor, Henry Kissinger, believed they could compel the other side to back down during crises in the Middle East and Vietnam by pushing so many chips into the pot that Nixon would seem crazy enough to go much further. According to newly declassified documents published today, that's last May 25th, sorry, we didn't say, forgive us, in 2015, not last year, in May 2015, in newly declassified documents published today by the National Security Archive, with madman diplomacy, Nixon and Kissinger strove to end the Vietnam War on the most favorable terms possible in the shortest period of time practicable. An effort that culminated in a secret global nuclear alert in October of that year. So this is on the National Security Archive, published in 2015. It's an explanation of what the madman strategy is in military terms. And it's that strategy that we believe President Trump, let's dub him the Mad King, is deploying. What's the purpose of this strategy in the context of war? Well, it shouldn't be disputed right now that we are in the context of war. And in the context of war, the madman strategy is to clearly, this was, by the way, Nixon and Kissinger. We're talking of the Vietnam War. We're talking of quite a while back. The context came after America had already used nuclear weapons in World War II. And so the context was that they could well be mad enough to do this. That is important context. The United States of America remains the only country on the planet that has used nuclear weapons. In World War II, it is well known that President Truman, dropped nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in Japan, thereby ending World War II, forcing Japan's unconditional surrender and drawing to a close perhaps one of human history's most bloodied chapters, and we include in that World War I. The idea of a world war is so horrific that it should never, ever be repeated again. The United States of America took the view in military terms that because a world war and potential Armageddon is so horrific, keep in mind, we've never been closer to Armageddon since. So just imagine how delicate, sensitive, and scary that time would have been, considering that we were on the brink of a nuclear Armageddon and World War II was raging. And America had nuclear weapons and the Soviets were racing to get them. All right. You've got to remember that context. Into that context, the decision is made in the United States of America, a decision that nobody is forced, compelled to morally justify, because, of course, all war is horrible. And by definition, dropping nuclear bombs on people and obliterating entire cities is horrible. Nobody should be compelled to morally justify the fact that this was done. What we would ask people to remember in your moral condemnation of killing human beings is that in that act, that World War II also ended. There is, of course, some dispute whether or not that act was needed to end World War II. With that acknowledged and with that caveat aside, the importance here is that fast forward to Vietnam, and the Nixon-Kissinger madman strategy relies on that understanding that America has been mad enough in the past to do this. And therefore, F around and find out is basically the madman strategy, right? They have been mad enough in the past to do this, and if you insist, it will be done again. That the idea of the madman strategy is bring that specter to the fore. In other words, it's an acknowledgement we're at the brink, and it is the definition of the meaning of the word brinkmanship. We are at the brink, and we are engaging in this brinkmanship in order to make you blink, because we've done this before and you haven't. That's the madman strategy. Now apply that to, as we say, from the Nixon-Kissinger era, apply that to Trump and Iran today. Iran, like Japan, doesn't have nuclear weapons. The obliteration of entire cities isn't exactly being threatened here, but the obliteration of power plants and bridges, in other words, critical core infrastructure that will devastate the country, is being threatened. And so it isn't quite so as close up to the brink as happened during World War II, because, of course, Russia and China have not joined. And by the way, that's a crucial point, which is why we think this will end in peace negotiations, because Russia and China will not join. And that's clear. And we've made that very clear in past radical dispatches as well. But point being that now, fast forward, Japan didn't have nuclear weapons. Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons. In both instances, America does. Kissinger used them on, Truman used them on Japan. Nixon and Kissinger developed the madman strategy in the context of the Vietnam War to try and force an end to the war as soon as is practicable. For the purposes of the brinkmanship, it is to end the war. That is the purpose of the madman strategy. It's to end the war. These are very delicate strategies, by the way, and they are only ever as good as the fact that they deliver what they say on the tin that they're meant to deliver, which is an end to the war. The the magic around such a strategy, or the bubble around it, if it's ever burst and it doesn't indeed end the war, but rather actually leads to war, then the value of the strategy isn't as powerful as actually it achieving its objective. So you go from Truman and World War II, you go from Nixon and Kissinger and the madman strategy in the Vietnam War and also the Middle East at the time. Fast forward to Trump, and Iran, like Japan and again, everything since when it comes to developing countries, didn't have a nuclear weapon. Trump is the closest thing. Trump had already, in the context of Iran, completely and entirely decapitated their entire leadership, the Iranian theocracy's entire leadership. Now, that's relevant and important because now think of it from the context of the Iranians themselves. The Iranians, they aren't like most viewers in the West who, to put it politely, have never experienced war, have never really felt just how horrific and difficult war is, have never had to be burdened with the sacrifices that are necessary for war, and therefore, again, to put it very politely, speak about this conflict from incredibly privileged first world perches. That, we don't mean that as an offense. It's just the truth. If you have never experienced war, if your country isn't war torn, you don't understand what it feels like, and therefore your context is different. Try and switch perspectives for a moment. You're the Iranian theocracy. You're the ruling Iranian regime inside Iran. Your entire leadership has just been completely decapitated by a series of lightning bombings by the United States and Israel. Your supreme leader, the second only ever leader of your ideological experiment, the Iranian theocracy that was founded in 1979, Khamenei, was killed. His entire leadership were killed. His son, who rose to replace him, was bombed and is now being reported to be in a non-conscious state and severely injured in hospital. And anybody that emerges who adopts a hawkish or war hawk position is similarly treated with some of that karma and is duly bombed and killed. And in that context, for a president to threaten you that he will bomb your power plants and your bridges and is prepared to continue bombing and escalating that bombing unless you come to terms, and then sets a deadline for those terms. In that context, if you put your perspective on that, you're looking at this through the eyes of the Iranian theocracy, this suddenly looks like a very credible threat, a very weighty threat, and a very mad king-like action. And you don't exactly know whether or not, from the perspective of the Iranian theocracy, President Trump will deliver on this threat, because he's just decapitated your entire leadership. Perhaps he will deliver on it because he was mad enough to do that. Don't forget, prior to that, he also took out your intelligence chief, Qasem Soleimani, who up until that point was perhaps one of the strongest men in the Middle East. It isn't exactly far off for those involved in the negotiations with the Americans via the Pakistanis to take seriously the specter of President Trump actually doing this, and therefore focus their minds on arriving at a deal either prior to the deadline that Trump has imposed expiring, or agreeing with Trump and the Americans to extend that deadline in good faith to continue negotiating. But it's in that context that the Truth Social post by President Trump comes on Easter Sunday. It was in the context of the Nixon-Kissinger madman strategy doctrine that we've just referred to you. It is a very credible threat in that context. And of course, the praise be to Allah remark was referencing Mike Tyson intimidating his enemy before going on to win the world championship. It needs to be understood in that context so that we realize what President Trump is doing, as the madman strategy was laid out to do, was increasing the chances of ending the war as soon as practicable by demonstrating that he's prepared to escalate the war as far as is necessary to force a peaceful ending. When you're dealing with a power such as the Iranian theocracy that is not your equal in terms of military might, then you need to make it clear that the fastest way to arriving at peace is their agreement to terms, because the terms that are being offered are quite reasonable in the context of the power that could be deployed. They should be thankful that it is not an unconditional surrender that is being demanded, but rather a coming to terms that are being negotiated through a mutually recognized country, the Pakistanis. So that's what's going on. We wanted to reassure everybody, because when you hear it broken down in that way, it doesn't sound as crazy, perhaps, as some commentators have been concerned about, because, of course, those commentators who have been concerned have been reacting online in a manner that perhaps is of the view that this reaction or President Trump was entirely losing control of the situation. So what we expect to happen is the negotiations in Pakistan to continue, and for the Iranians and the Americans to come to terms. Whether or not the deadline is met is a different thing, but we do expect for these negotiations to continue. And in the context of the threats by Trump being made, we in fact view those as that it makes it more likely for peace and a settlement to be arrived at. So that's what we think is going on. And of course, there have been other reactions, which we're going to come to as well, because this isn't just the Tucker Carlson, but others online have also been incredibly concerned with what President Trump has said. Before we get to those reactions, we're just going to try and remind you all of the latest news on this. The context in which these threats have been made, the Pakistanis have announced today that they have handed to the Iranians and to the Americans a peace plan that does appear to be likely that both sides could agree to it. The Iranians and the Iranian ambassador in Pakistan has agreed that they have indeed received those peace plans, and therefore it is all looking relatively positive, and we are quite sure that it will be concluded in a manner that hopefully will end this conflict. And of course, what happens next is, once the conflict is ended and terms are settled, we're fully expecting for a grand regional settlement for peace to be arrived at. But just continuing on some of the reactions to this commentary, again, as they've been unfolding, we just want to bring you more reactions from online. So one of those, which is on your screens now, as well as from Tucker Carlson, was from Jake Shields. Now, this one is an interesting one because we play it not because Jake has any particular relevance to the Middle East, but because he appears to be insisting on commentating anyway, which is the case with most online commentators. They may not necessarily be experts when it comes to the Middle East, but for whatever reason, they've taken it upon themselves to comment in a manner that isn't necessarily full of wisdom. So we're going to read these to you, because by reading them and by going through them in this way, they help to explain exactly what through our response to them, exactly what could be going on. And we believe that's important for people to keep an eye on as well. So first of all, hold on, if we see, we can fix this, the screen point here. Sorry, the form, let's see if we can fix this formatting for you before we continue. While we're working on that, we will read the post and then see if we can work on getting it up on the screen for you as we read it. So Jake Shields has online said it's disgusting that the vast majority of Muslims in the world, at least their leaders, have sided with the Epstein coalition. This is world champion UFC fighter Jake Shields, concerned, as you see on the screen there, concerned that the Muslim, the vast majority of Muslims, the Sunni Muslims of the world, are for whatever reason not siding with Iran, the Shia Islamist theocracy in Iran, but rather are, in his allegation there, siding with the Epstein class. And we thought we'd show you that again, because our reaction to this is by way of explanation for what exactly actually is going on, as opposed to what is being alleged by people such as world champion BJJ MMA fighter Jake Shields. So our reaction to Jake is, the hilarious part here is that you see the stance of the vast majority of Muslims as an indictment on them and not on you. They are actually refusing to side with the Iranian theocracy, not siding with the Epstein class, as you say. You are an American living in relative luxury, bemoaning the stance of the people who actually live in the war-torn region. You are being so classic American pie. So again, just to demonstrate that the argument that this is somehow a betrayal of the Shia Islamist theocracy, without recognizing that there is a third response here, in the conflict as it currently stands. And that third response is the response of the Sunni Muslim, the Sunni Muslims of the world. And that response is being, again, misunderstood by Western commentators who perhaps haven't fully comprehended what's going on in the region. And so, again, Jake Shields responded to that. F anyone, so again, an expletive-laden post. F anyone supporting Israel, you Muslim are such cucks. So we're just going to, again, show our response and reaction to that, to demonstrate that this is perhaps a misunderstanding of what's been going on. So we'll just read it. This is so funny. Thank you for exposing yourself for all Muslims to see. I'm so anti-Zionist that I've become anti-Muslim. That is our critique of Jake Shields. Stick to the safety of your well-regulated BJJ matches, Goofy. You know jack shit about the Middle East, real sacrifice, and real war. Because this is clearly a huge misunderstanding of what has been going on here. And these sorts of commentaries from people that don't really understand or follow the Middle East are really something that perhaps should be minimized, and people should realize that, to put it politely, when it comes to the Middle East, they don't know what they're talking about, or as we've said, they know jack shit. So again, we just want to explain why that may be the case, and in doing so here, we're going to read to you what we responded after we posted that to Jake Shields, and that should be. We have some formatting issues, but nevertheless, we'll see if we can fix this for you while we're on air. But we're going to read it regardless of whether the camera angle is correct on this or not. Forgive us for these formatting issues we're having over the course of this stream. We're trying a new format. It's the vertical camera, as you can see, but for some reason the screen has decided that it's splitting three in a manner that isn't necessarily vertical. But before we carry on, let's see if we can fix that. So, all right, we are back on the right now. So we should be completely. Yeah, much better. Right, here we are. Bear with us. Right. If we share this, that should hopefully fix the problem and we can carry on. Apologies for this, but hopefully we fixed it. Let's see. Meanwhile, we'll carry on reading. So what we've said in response to Jake Shields is the Iran conflict is a three-way war. America, the new Rome, against Iran, the new Persia, over the future of Sunni Muslim lands, or the Arabs. Sunni Muslims will not do the bidding of the Shia Islamist theocracy. Just because some Western upstarts want to use Sunni Muslim lives in order to give Israel a bloody nose. As the Mufti of Syria alludes to below, this is a three-way moment, and it has Islamic precedent. We explained all of this in the Radical Dispatch that should be on your screens right about now. And to read that, Lebanon bans Iranian terror group Hezbollah and seeks peace talks with Israel as region unites against Iran. Now, in that stream, we posted the Mufti of Syria responding in the following terms, and we're just going to play that on your screens for you so you can see it for yourselves to understand that the Sunni Muslim Arabs have taken a third position when it comes to this conflict.
أولا وما من يد إلا يد الله فوقها وما من ظالم إلا سيبلى بأظلمه وهذا عليه أدلة من أحاديث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. الآن ما بدي أطول عليكم أنا كثير، في أحاديث كثيرة تدل على هذا المعنى. فابتلي الظالم بالظالم ليش؟ حتى الله سبحانه وتعالى ما يتعبنا في هذا. الله بيبلينا وبيخلصنا من الاثنين. يعني ينبغي أن نقف عند هذا الحد. الظالمين واقعين بعضهم بعض، ولكن نحن المفروض عاطفيا وشعوريا أنه نحزن على إخواننا وغير الساسانيين في إيران، وهم كثر. نأسف ونتمنى لهم الرحمة إن شاء الله، والجرحى نتمنى لهم الشفاء وأن يعافيهم الله تبارك وتعالى.
Now, what you saw there was the Mufti of Syria. Keep in mind that Syria as a country, as we've explained before on Radical Media, Syria as a country has many times had to, they've been involved for many years in a long civil war against Assad, which was the dictator that was ruling over them in Syria. And that culminated in the Syrian people expelling Assad and his family, who flew to Moscow. That regime, the Assad regime, was kept in power in Syria by the Iranian theocracy. So the Syrian Muslims, Sunni Muslims as they are, have refused to cooperate with or support in any way the Iranian theocracy. And that's primarily because of the history that they've had in the past with Iran. And that explains the third position that we've just referenced, which is the Sunni Muslim Arab position that is not in line with Iran, while simultaneously not being in line with Israel. And the reason for that position is because, as we've just said, the past of the civil war. We're still seem to have issues with this screen, and for whatever reason, we can't remove the blank third element in the box there. We're just going to have to carry on. Forgive us for this third blank box you can see above, but until we get off the live stream, we won't be able to, it looks like we won't be able to fix this. So we just have to carry on with this third box there. But that's, hopefully you can see both the screens we want you to see regardless. But that's the context in which we are making it very clear that the Sunni Muslim Arabs are not signing up to this conflict because of their third stance, and that is their decision not to support Iran because of Iran's regional colonialism in the Middle East. The Pakistanis are, though, and have been negotiating the peace, and that peace is something which on day one of this conflict we said would be the case, and in fact it does appear to be on track. And again, we're going to bring you the latest on that. So Reuters reports, as is on your screens now, and you can see it via the Spectator Index. Breaking: US and Iran received a plan to end conflict, including immediate ceasefire, mediated by Pakistan's army chief, according to Reuters. The Spectator Index continues there. It should still be on your screens. Proposal dubbed the Islamabad Accord would involve a ceasefire that would take effect immediately and involve reopening the Strait of Hormuz with a 15 to 20 days to finalize a broader agreement, according to Reuters report. So the Pakistanis are continuing with their negotiations between the two countries, or the countries involved in this conflict. And the Clash report brings the following news on that front. Again, we're just going to read this for you. Pakistan's proposed two-phase deal. Immediate phase, ceasefire starts right away. The Strait of Hormuz reopens immediately, and that's key for global oil. Follow-up phase, 15 to 20 days. Final comprehensive peace deal negotiated, tentatively called the Islamabad Accord. The final deal may include that Iran agrees to limits on their nuclear program, no weapons. In return, sanctions relief, a release of frozen assets, broader regional framework for Hormuz security. All of this is from Reuters. You can see the Clash report post there. Iranian official to Reuters: Tehran has received Pakistan's proposal and is reviewing it. It will not accept deadlines or any pressure. So they have received the proposal. It is looking quite positive and optimistic that indeed peace is on the cards, and that a peace proposal is in fact something that is likely to go through. All of this is incredibly positive news and should be interpreted in that context as incredibly positive news. Let's see if we can now, while we're still trying to get through this stream, fix the camera angle issue that is causing an issue. Bear with us. Well, no, it doesn't look like that's going to be possible. Forgive us again. This is a technical issue that we seem to still be struggling with. So we're going to carry on with the three-way screen and carry on, because you can still at least see the content we want you to see. Apologies for that. We're not sure what's happened here, but we can't fix it while we're live on air. So to carry on, let's once again get the other screen up so you can see what we're referencing at least. Forgive the interruption, folks. To carry on, Reuters report should be on your screens right about now, and that is Reuters reporting that Pakistan is indeed negotiating, is very near a solution. Headline from Reuters: from international outcast to mediator in Iran war, Pakistan's remarkable makeover. This is obviously in reference to the fact that Pakistan, prior to this conflict, was seen as quite a bit of an international pariah or an outcast, but instead nowadays it's the opposite. It is seen as a country that is crucial to negotiating this peace settlement in the context of the Middle East conflict. To read from that Reuters report: a diplomatic outcast a year ago, Pakistan has become a trusted regional partner and a mediator between the US and Iran to end the war in the Middle East. A remarkable transformation for the South Asian nation, driven mostly by its powerful military chief, Field Marshal Asim Munir. Munir has had several meetings with President Donald Trump, including an unprecedented one-on-one lunch at the White House, while the government has apprehended an Islamic State bomber accused of killing American troops and handed him over to the US. So there we have Reuters, the original report. A journalist inside Pakistan has said many Pakistanis who are quite emotional towards their support for Iran forget that in January 2024, Iran launched unprovoked strikes on Pakistan, Instead of exhibiting the restraint preferred by Gulf nations, Pakistan acted decisively, retaliating with intensified strikes on Iran. Iran's leadership subsequently visited Pakistan to mend ties. We are probably still in the mending ties stage bilaterally. That may explain this post here by a Pakistani journalist. It may explain why the Pakistanis, the Iranians, are so keen to listen to the Pakistanis, because clearly the Iranians may well have a lot to make up to when it comes to Pakistan and the Pakistani previous tensions that have existed between Pakistan and Iran. So Pakistan stepping in is it's in a unique position. They have a good relationship with the Americans, and they have the good relationship with the Iranians. Well, the Iranians seem keen to mend their relationship with them, and they are strategically positioned to do so. A Pakistani commentator has said that, has posted a video, US Vice President J.D. Vance is negotiating with Iranian officials through Pakistan's mediation, Trump confirmed indirectly to reporters. He indicated that J.D. Vance may travel to Islamabad to negotiate with Iranian officials. Pakistan is playing a key role. We're going to play that video for you of Trump confirming that Vance is indeed involved in these negotiations. Take a look at this.
Plans to continue to be talking to the intermediaries from Pakistan?
Well, he is, and we have Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner talking. They're all unified, and they're all talking together, yeah.
Do you expect the Vice President could be involved in an in-person meeting with officials in the coming days?
Could be, yeah.
And that was President Trump confirming that the Pakistanis are involved in speaking directly to J.D. Vance, and in fact that the conversation between Vance and the Pakistanis is ongoing. So all of this is to reassure everybody that a peace negotiation is indeed continuing. It's on the table. Iran's ambassador to Pakistan has stated very clearly that they have received the proposal, the peace proposal, and we're just going to read that for you as well. Reza Amri Muqaddam has said Pakistan positive and productive endeavors in goodwill and good office to stop the war is approaching a critical, sensitive stage. Stay tuned for more. And the South Asia Index reports Pakistan is all set to finalize a deal between Iran and United States that will be acceptable to both countries. We're going to end the stream here, folks. We would have gone into a lot more detail, but as you can clearly see, we're having camera issues or camera angle issues, which we're going to end the stream to fix and resolve. But all the more reason for you to go over to Radical Media and sign up to get the written version of this stream with all of these articles linked up for you properly in a written dispatch. We'll be back next week, and hopefully with this camera issue fixed so that you don't have to worry about us trying to concentrate and doing it while we're trying to speak to you. Again, apologies for this. It's kind of upset the stream a bit in the sense that we had a lot more planned for you, but it's not something that, because it's quite distracting having half an empty screen. So we're going to come back to you next week with this issue resolved. But until then, you've been listening to The Radical for the Warrior Creed live stream. We'll see you next week.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Witness the strength of street knowledge. Street knowledge.
Terrorize the jam like troops in Pakistan.
Street knowledge. Street knowledge. Quick service announcement brought to you in part by Warriors.